Welcome everybody. This is the, I don't even know what edition, but this is the Sobriety Rocks Success Story Show, and I am excited about this one. This is Jessica Tuttle. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Are you nervous?
A little, yeah. It's weird.
Why?
I don't know. I'm just talking about what's happened, what's going on.
This is going to be awesome on a variety of levels. So I want to start with this. Your mugshot, one of your mugshots.
One of them, yes.
And one of your sober pictures is listed on our Facebook page, which a lot of people have already tuned in and liked and made some comments on. I want to know how you feel about each one of those pictures first. Start with the former picture. How do you feel seeing that now?
I guess when I see my mugshots, I don't really recognize that person anymore. That girl doesn't exist.
Yep.
I see somebody who's really lost and hopeless and had no direction. Pretty much had given up on life at that point, definitely.
How did that girl become who she was?
Oh, so much. I always struggled with low self-esteem growing up. I always kind of had anger issues. I definitely was filled with, I just didn't know who I was. I always kind of felt like that growing up. Like, I never really fit in anywhere. Like, I did sports and I went to school and I guess I looked like I fit in, but I personally never felt like I fit in, and I think my self-esteem probably had a big part of that. And as I got older, I got into really abusive and toxic relationships, and that just fueled my low self-esteem. And I had my two older girls. I was raising them on my own for a while, and just trying to cope with life, and I wasn't coping well. And it started really just with pills. They made me feel better and I had energy, and I felt like I could do more things on them, and I had self-esteem all of a sudden. It was false self-esteem, but it was self-esteem, I guess.
Give me what was good about that girl that was utilized and then lost during your addiction? Give me the good Jessica that got buried in amongst all the drugs you were doing. I
think that growing up I was always very caring and very loving. I always would try to go out of my way for people, and it almost kind of maybe turned into people pleasing. I don't know, and still today, 2 years in, I still have difficulties with looking at my past and what's happened and how I felt about myself. It's kind of hard to relate to that person even today, because I'm so far from it today.
That's why I'm asking you this stuff. So one of the things too that we bonded over a couple of years ago when I first met you, which we'll talk about in a bit, but I want to talk about what running was doing for you back then.
When I first got clean, I was in a recovery house, and we kind of were locked down. And I used to run when I was in high school, and always did sports and stuff. But when I first got clean, I started running every morning. And I was running a couple miles every morning, and it's kind of like, being in recovery. There was definitely times when I just wanted to give up, but I'd be like, I'm just going to go a little further, I'm just going to go a little further, and I kept doing it. I kept getting better, and I kept going longer, and that's really what kind of recovery is for me still. Even though you want to give up, and there's definitely days still, where I just, being an adult is not always fun, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it.
So how many times had you done standard treatment during all this stuff we're talking about?
I think that I've been in IOPs and treatment, I think I counted like 11 times.
What worked in those 11 times?
I guess really I've been in a lot of recovery houses to kind of like surround myself. I think looking back, that's probably what helped me. And there's definitely people that, you know, I've come across in this process that have major impacts in my life still. And there's still people I talk to, you know, weekly or whatever. And I needed people to be honest with me. I needed people to hear what I had to say. Because in the process of having like low self-esteem and these bad relationships, I lost my voice. So I'd be in a room full of people, but I felt very alone. And now I've kind of found my voice, and I haven't kind of shut up since.
So what do you think, I don't want to say went wrong, so I want to rephrase it. What do you think wasn't right yet during these in and outs of treatment? What hadn't clicked yet for you? What was missing?
Oh, that stupid wheel.
I'm going to get to it.
Okay. Well, that's huge. It's huge for me.
Yep.
You know, I would go and go to meetings and sit there. I would never participate. I never really wanted to like open up, and that comes with trust issues and all that stuff. But I mean, I think there was probably a part that I wasn't ready at the time. And I hadn't gotten with like change. I just, you know, seen a meme the other day about it, but like change is difficult, but like for me it's like fatal if I don't change, you know, for what I deal with and my demons. You know, and then like what would happen is I would get clean for a little bit, be in these houses, like these real structured environments, and then I would get, you know, out and just go back to doing whatever I wanted to do anyways. I hadn't learned how to live. You know, I didn't know how to be an adult. I didn't know who I was. How could I be an adult? So much.
So a couple of years ago, it's been about 2 years ago.
Yeah. Month, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so
Yep.
I'm working at the Zepf Center, bringing in the Racing for Recovery first IOP. I was asked to come in there and do it. So they had me in this library off away from everybody. It's like, put that dude in the closet over there and see if he can do anything. So and I'm picturing you, and this is what I want you to convey to everybody. You're coming into rehab again, and you're used to getting the same thing again. What was it about Racing for Recovery that you even gave us a chance initially? What was it that you said, you know what, I'm going to try this initially?
I definitely think that it was, you know, at this point I was already running.
Okay.
I was, you know, and I think everybody assumes that if you're with Racing for Recovery, you run, which is not the case, and I tell people that a lot. You know, so, and at that point I was willing to do anything it took to change, to have a better life, and what I had been doing wasn't working. I've completed programs, I've completed rehabs twice, you know, 90-day rehabs a couple times, jail, all that stuff, but I wanted to do something different, and and what actually happened is I picked up your book. My roommate had given me your book. I was like, just read it. I think it was only like 3 pages in, and like, oh shit, oh sorry. Like this is different. Like, wait a minute, like you had said, like I have a choice. Like I know I wanted to change, and I was willing to do whatever it took to change. And I knew that I didn't want to feel the way I felt anymore. You know, I didn't know who I was. I was just kind of, even clean, I didn't know who I was. I just kind of was just going from relationship to relationship, I always kind of put my value in somebody else's hands. So I didn't have any value. And that's a really scary place to be, even clean.
So this is why I've been so excited about having you on. Because I remember the day, and this is where I want you to start talking about this. We're sitting up there, and I'm trying. One of the things that I realized myself is I felt the same way you did. And then since Racing for Recovery has been going since 2001, I started hearing the same thing over and over. Just like you're saying. I was doing this, it wasn't working, I wasn't quite ready, or I hadn't seen the right thing. Nothing was changing, but I knew I didn't want what I was currently doing. So when you're coming in as a person who's trying to give back and convey this other option for people, I got up and just started drawing why this stuff happens and then what it takes to create this balanced lifestyle. So I started, we call it the wheel. I drew this wheel on the board. I think it was one of the first times I'd ever done it. About, okay, you have a wheel of recovery and it takes all these spokes of a balanced lifestyle to do it. And I remember you just looking at me with this dumbfounded look, and you go, that's it. That's what I've been missing. And can you talk about what that was like for you?
Yeah, the wheel pretty much changed the game, for me at least. You know, I would get clean, get out of these treatments or whatever, houses, and they just kept saying, if you just put down the drugs, if you just stop getting high, Jessica, just stop getting high. Well, I would do that, and I do that for a couple months. And then, so then I was like expecting like everything to be better because I stopped doing drugs. Well, it didn't work like that. And then what would happen was I'd be so messed up over not everything just coming together all of a sudden because I stopped doing drugs like you told me to do, and my life's not getting better. Well, first off, I wasn't putting a lot of work into it, but I didn't, like, my whole thing was like, I have children, I have girls, young girls, and so I would get clean for a little bit and be like, well, wait, you're not going to hand me back my kids? Like, I'm clean. I've been clean 3 months or whatever, you know. And the thing is I never had any balance. I just thought, like, if I just stop doing drugs, everything will be good. Well, no, I have to restore some things. There's got to be some work. There's a process. I have somebody, you know, one of the directors of this house I was in, she always be like, it's a process, Jessica, it's a process. And it never really meant anything at the time, but it is a process. Like, this doesn't happen overnight. I didn't destroy my life overnight. You know, I have to work on some things, and I have to, you know, acknowledge what's happened, you know, and try to mend what I can.
I truly hope that people are listening to you right now, because this is a crystal clear example of what we do. So many people think that being sober is just not using, and it's not. It literally when I say it has nothing to do with it, obviously I understand you can't use drugs.
Right.
But once you stop, you get the opportunity to start implementing a lifestyle. So, you know, I'm drawing these things on the board with these little cartoon characters or whatever, and what was it that resonated with you that then you're like, okay, I need to do these other things, and what were they?
I mean, you had like volunteering on the wheel, and at that point I was volunteering, and so I'm like, okay, I'm doing that, and let's keep going around the spokes of the wheel, and, you know, am I talking to my family? Am I, you know, am I keeping my word when I say, hey, I'm going to be there for my kids? You know what I mean? Like, it started having some accountability in that wheel, you know, and it just kind of went from there. Am I working out? Am I, you know, being honest? And you can, like, the spokes on the wheel could keep going, you know what I mean? And I tried to start doing all those things, and am I showing up on time? You know, just little things even. But I didn't know how to do any of that. That's the thing. Like, I just thought if I just stop doing drugs, I'll be good. Like, that will solve my problems. No, I was messed up before the drugs. That's the honest truth. You know, the drugs just numbed it.
I don't want you to get into details unless you want to, but can you just talk about then having a concept that was being shared with you of, okay, we have to understand why we've lost our self-worth, dealing with the things that have happened to us, that's one thing. So when you stop the drugs, you get to an opportunity to deal with the stuff that caused the addiction and now implementing a new life. How did you then start to add that to your recovery? I mean, what did it mean to you to start having that knowledge or that concept?
Oh, so much. You know, there's definitely moments in my life that have like impacted me and the way I thought and, you know, how I approached life. The thing is I need to get with is like, and for me personally is like, I held a lot of like resentments towards people, and I was very unforgiving for the things that I had done. I was unforgiving to myself first off, but I was unforgiving to other people. And you know, I just knew that I wanted to be somebody like that I could look at and be proud of, and my kids could be proud of, and I knew I kind of was the opposite of all the things I wanted.
We're going to get into the good now. So, Todd, any questions yet?
Not right now.
By the way, if you want to ask Jessica a question, ask her while we're doing this, and we'll get to it. So, how long have you been sober now?
2 years.
Awesome. What has been achieved in your sobriety personally, professionally, and I'm going to keep going with the third question there, and how are you giving that back through Racing for Recovery to help others? It should take about an hour.
Yeah. My life is just so different in 2 years. You know, I professionally, you know, I run a cleaning service. I have my bosses who, you know, kind of pretty much let me run the show and trust me, which is, you know, nobody ever used to trust me. But they're also in recovery. So when I'm like, I could go to a meeting, you know what I mean, they understand. And my boss, either of them, I could call them if I'm just having a bad day. Sometimes I do. You know, and I have people I can depend on, like people who value my opinion, you know what I mean? You know, and then I hire, in return, I hire people in recovery.
Talk about, what I want to add to this too, and I want you to name your company and stuff, because you guys just came in and voluntarily cleaned our building, which I greatly appreciate. So who is it you're working for, and you want to name a couple people, you can, or whatever you want to do to promote that, it's fine.
Yeah, I work for TLC Cleaning Solutions. Josh and Jessica Elkhart are my bosses, and they run it. And you know, I'm just grateful that they gave me a chance. You know, I was in a recovery house when I got hired. My fiance's known, you know, them for years, and they took a chance on me, and I've just kind of moved up, you know, in this process. And you know, I kind of get to make the schedules, and I get to build these relationships with people in recovery, you know, who I hire or with them themselves, you know, and get to have a more intimate relationship with people, and to get to watch people grow. Like one of the girls I work with, she just had a year. Like, that's amazing, you know. And I hired her when she had 7 months clean, and to watch her progress and what she's doing differently in her life, and even just the way she talks, like, that's amazing. And I just texted her the other day and just told her, like, I'm just so proud of you. Like, and that's the thing, is that I needed that reinforcement when I first got clean, and you gave that to me. You know what I mean? Like, you were really the first person to give that to me, sitting in that IOP room. Like, I felt like you heard me, and I try to do that with people, and not everybody who's even in recovery. Just sometimes people just need to be heard, and I want to be that person.
You are that person. Last thing I want to ask about working. How does it feel to be coming in and volunteering at our place?
I love it. I like being able to, like, give back in any way, and And I'm super OCD, so when I come in here sometimes, I kind of have moments, I'm not gonna lie. Sorry, guys.
Right, I hear you. That's okay, right? Tell me what it's like to be a mom for you now.
Oh. Whoa. You know, my older girls, they didn't get to have their mom around, or when I was around, I really wasn't around mentally, and I couldn't support them, and I couldn't, you know, emotionally be there for them because I wasn't even there. My oldest daughter just made the cheerleading squad, and we went to her dance recital this past weekend, and I'm here, I'm present, and I get to be the mom that they deserve, and I'm far from perfect as a mother, but I just want to be somebody that they're proud of, and that they can talk to, and my youngest daughter, Kennedy, she'll be 3 this month, but she'll never know me as that person, you know, and that to me is like huge, and you know, and it's difficult some days, and it's overwhelming some days, but you know, like I'm so fortunate my parents have my girls, and you know, that they're willing to let me be a part of their life, and Kennedy, and to get Kennedy back, and to, you know, it's like a second chance. I really didn't think, you know, this last time around that I was going to ever get that chance.
You know, I'm looking at you, and off the corner of my eye, I see our slogan, "With sobriety, anything is possible," behind you, and I'm like, this is it. It's right. It's another example of look what happens when you stop doing one self-destructive thing. So I want to talk about my long-lost half-brother that I never knew I had.
Yes.
And this relationship you have with this awesome dude. And what's he doing today, too?
He's actually at the house cleaning it. 'Cause I think that I was complaining too much. My relationship with Chris. We just got engaged last summer. Some days I feel like he saves me. I'm just really grateful. You know, I never thought that I'd be getting married. I didn't think that was in the cards for me either. But to have an equal, and to I've never been in a relationship with somebody I trust fully, and who supports me, and especially in the beginning, when we were just even hanging out, you know, he on most days he just loved me, and when I didn't love myself, and he allowed me to grow into who I wanted to be, and supported me in that. You know, he's very involved with the 12 steps, in committees, all that stuff, and you know, so when I was doing IOP with you, you know, I'm like explaining it to him. He's kind of like, you know, he was kind of a little iffy, you know, because for me, like, I was always told, like, this is the way you have to get clean, like, this is the way the judges were, like, directing me and all that stuff. And I found out that there was other ways. And maybe I should try that other way, because the way I was taking wasn't working for me. And it's been nice to have somebody in my life who supports me in something that's different from what he was doing, you know, and to come here with me. Yep. And to run meetings, you know, that he's open-minded enough. But I think it's more than being open-minded. I think he's just a genuinely loving person and cares and wants better for everybody.
I have the utmost respect for you as a person, and for Chris as well. And you're right, you know, the 12-step program, one of the major things they talk about is don't judge without prior investigation, and live and let live, and all these things. And Chris is a true example of that. And then another thing that I admire him for too greatly is I remember when you guys were just getting together, I was just finishing up at the library and stuff, and you were talking about this guy, and most of the times in early recovery, people get in these relationships and they, right, and everybody knows that story. And the thing I admired about him and you was this was something that was not based on, oh, it's a physical need. There was a mutual admiration and respect for just two people in recovery that's what it was based on that blossomed into this awesome thing you guys have now. And I've just loved watching it as a participant, you know?
Yeah, it's nice. We definitely have our own recoveries. And I think our ideas of recovery are somewhat different. You know, for me, like, I think that I struggled with this for years, is that I kind of always felt like you have to do a meeting every day, and you have to, you know, be like fully involved in it every single day. And that, I think that's probably one of the things that drew me to this, was that this is a lifestyle.
Yep.
This is, you know, there's some guidelines, yes, but like they're guidelines, they're not rules, they're not, you know. And for me, I knew that I wanted to get to a place where I could raise my kids, I could be working, and I'm a homebody at that, you know. I never used to be, you know, I loved living in the chaos, but kind of like once my soul settled, everything else kind of settled around me. And, you know, I always didn't, I never got with that. Like, I didn't want to sit in a meeting every day, and I didn't want to drag my kids to a meeting. Sometimes I don't want them to hear hear what people are saying, because I still want my kids to be I just want them to be innocent. I want them to be kids, and I want them, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but for me personally,
Right.
I didn't want that. I didn't want that. My kids are they live out in Lucky, in this small little town, and I just want to keep them as innocent, and I've done so much already, you know, to affect them, and they're super well-adjusted kids. But that, for me, I didn't want that, but like, you know, he likes to be involved, and that's what works for him, and that's his process, and not that it's always easy for him to go into meetings all the time, and there's definitely been, okay, well, do you have to go to a meeting every single day, you know, because, but it's relationship stuff, and we're adults, and, you know, we adjust to each other's needs at the same time.
You know, again, you're hitting on another facet of Racing for Recovery that you're obviously a success story with. We have like this concept that it's an opportunity to be tailor-made for each individual in their own way.
Right.
And I couldn't agree with you more. I don't even know how many meetings we have a week, 12 or 13. If somebody wants to do all 13 of them, great. If someone wants to do one, it doesn't matter. There's other things in that wheel of balance that are all important. So another part of that balance that we haven't talked about yet is the educational component. So you talk about your, you know, application in CDCA and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. Who would have thought somebody wanted me to like teach people recovery? Like, what? It's crazy. And you guys offered that for me, like, and you wanted me to be a part of it, and to get my CDCA, and you know, I want to help people, and me personally, and I never really felt like I would feel this way, but like, I want to help women.
I'm gonna get to that too. Yep.
You know, and so crazy, but I also have three girls.
Yep.
You know, and I think that, you know, when the time comes, we're gonna go that route. You know, I think that's probably something Chris agrees with. You know, you have to. I like dealing with people in recovery. I like hearing people's stories. I like to know where people have come from, and I want to help in any way that I can.
Well, we got to give credit where credit's due with this. You were the one that approached us about, hey, what do you think about doing a women's group? And it's like, well, obviously, I'm not one of those.
Right.
And you're bringing this whole thing where you've come in from the depths and despair of addiction to now being a 100% asset, not only to you, your family, your community, but to our program. Talk about what it's been like to run the Tuesday at noon women's group.
I love that meeting. I think that women recover differently. I think that we're wired differently. And what's kind of interesting is when I did IOP with you, I think I was the only female in that IOP for a couple weeks until I started recruiting other women. Right. But even just sitting in that room, you know, the guys in that group were awesome and let me say whatever I had to say. But I feel like we just recover differently, and sometimes we're not going to say things in a room full of guys that we would say to each other.
What can you say to a girl who's potentially watching this, why she needs to come at noon on Tuesdays for your group? What can they expect? I
think you'll just get brutally honest feedback from other women. Sometimes we need to hear that. Sometimes we just need to open up our mouths and say what we're thinking and what we're going through to like another woman. And because a woman's going to relate differently than a man's going to relate.
What can you teach the guys? What can a woman bring? I've never asked this of somebody before, but I'm just sitting here going, okay, I want to know about that. How can you help a male better understand a female's needs in recovery? Oh. That's a Barbara Walters question, isn't it?
I know. I don't know. I guess I would relate to like how mine and Chris's relationship in the beginning and how it still is. You know, me as a woman, I'll speak for me. I need to feel like I could trust you and that I can be open and honest with you, and that you're not going to use it against me, whatever I'm saying. Mm-hmm. You know, to hold it over my head. You know, and sometimes we just need to find one person. Just one person, yeah. You know, and I've even done with the women, like we have group text, you know, where one of us is having a bad day, we just text it out to a group and get different responses, and it's just a support. Like sometimes we just need that extra support, and the thing is I do go to meetings too, but I'm the type of addict that needs all the help I can get. Like yeah. My life was completely in shambles. And that's one of the things about Racing for Recovery that I just love and that I appreciate is, you know, is not only the positivity that you get in here, and when we're in meetings, it's not so much like talking, you know, like glamorizing what's happened. We don't talk about what's happened. We all know what happened, you know, like nothing sweet was about that life, you know. I want to know about what you're doing today and what you're doing with your kids this weekend and how is your relationship, and then, you know, sometimes I just need somebody who I can talk to and compare notes with almost, you know, and give suggestions, and sometimes I need suggestions, and it does more for me than I think for them on most days.
Questions, Todd?
Just one thing I want to read, it just shows the power of what we're doing here today in this show and the live stream. It says, I'm so happy to hear your story today, Jessica. I'm a single mom, 2 daughters, 61 days off alcohol. I feel just like you did, starting at the bottom, building everything up. I'm so happy for you, hon. Keep up the great work. Thanks. Inspiration to somebody else that's early on in their recovery, and that's obviously a good thing that you're on today, and again, it shows the power of what this can help to do to reach other people.
I want to go back again and restate this, because every time I see you, I think of that, literally, I picture you, and then I picture that like awakening moment on your face when we were doing this in that old library, and it was like it was almost like you were sitting in the dark and a light came on and you were just like, oh my God. And just watching that initial spark, it's the same thing this girl's watching. She's seeing you now and going, wow, if she can do it, so can I. And that's what I just thoroughly loved watching your growth.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I think in that moment, like looking back and looking at what it was, is that like, it was that hope, you know what I mean? Like, this was something different, and that, you know, I kept looking for the answer, and I kept being told what the answer was, but it wasn't working for me, you know, and so then I would be like, oh, it's not working for me, so I'm just going to back out, you know, why is this working for other people, but it's not working for me, and I never could get with that, but I wasn't given any other options.
If people really looked at recovery as a smorgasbord, that they get to choose, I mean, specifically coming into Racing for Recovery, we're like the buffet that you can either have anything that's on that buffet, or if there's something that's not on the buffet, tell us and we'll make it for you. It's not, you have to eat this. What if you don't like that? And that's when we talk, that's what I think of. It's not, you have to do something one way. It's, here's a concept, make it work on your own. And you've just been a pure example of what this whole program's been set out to do. I want to thank you just for being you and finding you.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, this has been all worth it. You know what I mean? This has been the hardest 2 years of my life, but also the best 2 years of my life at the same time. Like, you know, I figured out who I am in this process, and who I am isn't a bad person. You know, I was just in a lot of pain, and most days I was drowning in that pain, and you know, now I'm just learning how to live, and some days I'm still very neurotic, but it's okay. Like, and nowhere in these past 2 years have been like, oh, I need to go shoot dope. Like, this is too hard. It's not. It's harder going out there and doing the things I was doing than to face problems head on today. And, you know, this is so worth it. I just want to shake people. That's how I feel these days. And the thing is like, I support anybody who's trying to do something better. You know what I mean? I don't care how you're doing it, as long as you're trying. You know what I mean? Because that's all it really took. And the reality is that when I went to Zeph Recovery House, I was forced to go to Zeph Recovery House. Like, this judge was gonna throw away the key, you know, and Dart stepped in because my mom made a call. You know, I was okay with just going to prison. You know, I felt like maybe this is just who I was, and I know that's not true today.
No, that's right.
You know, I think that people just get so lost in all the, like, despair, you know, that you're living in that life, that you don't see a way out. And I've never been somebody who's ever just, like, gone to detox. Like, I go to jail. I just go to jail, you know, and that's how I detox. And, you know, sometimes we need to be pushed in that direction. So.
Riveting.
Another comment, the Tuesday noon women's meeting is awesome. Jessica is absolutely right. I was able to open up in there where I was around other women and mothers going through what I was, and being able to say things I wasn't comfortable saying with men around. Thank you, seriously, for everything you're doing here, and getting that women's meeting rolling. It's helping a lot of people.
Yeah, I think even with the women's meeting, like, it's gotten to a point where I've been able to address things, you know, even though I'm facilitating it. I mean, there's definitely been moments like where and having my children more and all this, like, that have brought up other things. I didn't know how to be a mom. My oldest daughter's 13. You know what I mean? Like, that. And I hated feeling that way, but I also knew, like, once I vocalized it and, like, said what it was, like, I could change. I could do something about it. Like, once you know better, you do better kind of thing. Like, And I got a chance to say that to them, and I got them to be able to respond and how they thought and how they felt, and some people agreed, you know, and then you get the extra support because you verbalize what's going on.
I'm done. I mean, that's awesome. Do you have anything you want to say in the
No,
end?
I'm just glad I'm here, and you know, I'm grateful for this program. It's changed everything for me.
Jessica Tuttle, everybody. We're done. Have a good